Why isn't my approach giving me the same sales results anymore? If you're not born in Canada, but you now live in Canada or doing business here, you're in the right place. Okay, click here the subscribe button, set up the alert, and if the content of this specific video is useful, let us know by clicking the like button. What I see a lot is people come from a place of a very competent execution, right? But one thing that nobody in business likes to admit and accept is that sometimes we are just lucky. So yes, competent execution, but sometimes there is what we call beginner's luck at play here. Let's look at very specific things. For example, if your business has already made good sales in Canada, but these sales had these characteristics that I'm talking about now, you may have been lucky with the beginner's luck, okay? For example, if you had a very unique first client that had a very uncharacteristic interest and understanding about what you're coming from, your company's background in the country of origin. Maybe this first client in Canada had some unique understanding about the business environment where you operated before, or a very specific understanding of something that your company does better than anybody else. But think about, is there this unique effect about who was your first client? Was this first client just like anybody else in Canada, or did they have some unique characteristics? My guess is that in most cases, for somebody that had very quick initial success, was something unique about the client. Also, there may have been something very unique about a specific team member. For example, a team member that may have goodwill, good relationships within the Canadian market, and for whatever reason, in that specific moment when you're trying to penetrate the Canadian market, this person was available and wanted to talk to you. So you were able to leverage their background, their reputation, all that. And this person was able to close this perception gap about a newcomer company and a market that already understands their reputation. Say, well, this is how the client may think. Well, I don't know about this company, but if this guy is telling me to give it a shot, I'll probably give it a shot because I've known him for a long time, and yeah, I understand. They resonate. They're telling me things that make sense. So consider this factor. Is your early success in Canada because of somebody unique in your team, right? And was there a critical mass, even small, a critical mass of people willing to try your solution? Oh yeah, I found this and this and that. Like maybe you did some research, you reached to some group on LinkedIn. So sometimes that happens. You hit a nerve in some specific place that says suddenly, yeah, all these people are wanting to buy. And that's great. And of course, if you had success and you made the sales, it's because your execution was very good. It was competent. Congratulations. What I'm trying to see here is like the scenario where aren't you having the same results anymore? Okay, let's see why. Then these three things may have been a little bit of luck. So how do you know you're reaching a plateau? If you're reaching a plateau now, if your growth curve is suddenly now flattening, you're not being able to grow at the same speed, or the sales calls are getting harder, you're having a hard time finding more people that are interested like they were in the early days. In other words, if you're finding hard to replicate your early successes, you may have hit some beginner's luck in the beginning. So these are all potential signs that the pool, your market, the pool was not as large as you initially believed, right? Think about a fisherman, right? If you're fishing in a specific place of the lake where there's a lot of fish in that minute, but then something changed, the sun came up or something, whatever, and then the fish went to another place and you're fishing there, it's like, well, what happens that there's no fish here anymore, right? So there may be signs that the pool that you're going after is shrinking. If you're having that perception, then there's stuff we can do to help, right? We have here our platform called Your Business in Canada, where we help side by side businesses like yours, people like you who are not born in Canada but are building the success here. And we do that where you are part of a group of other people that are in the same journey as you. Okay, but how do we turn these, let's say then, okay, sure, there was beginner's luck, but still I was competent, I have value. Yes, I understand that, right? How do we turn that beginner's luck into a sustained growth machine for you now? And here's one thing that is the most important of all of that. There is tremendous power in your successful Canadian cases. Your first few clients in Canada, you can leverage that very well. You should always, when you have a successful initial client in Canada, go after details of the following. Talk to your clients about what exactly was their original pain. What was exactly their motivation to choose you? Why did they choose you and not anybody else? Some people don't like to ask this question because they say, well, if I ask too hard, they're going to realize that they didn't make the decision for necessarily the most solid reason. They may pull. No, it's important. They chose you. There's a good reason. You are good. You executed well. But you need to understand it, ask them, as opposed to you assuming, oh, I know why they chose me. That just like everybody else has ever chose me. Well, you may be surprised by the answers you're gonna get. Sometimes people will give you indication that you have strengths that you're even not aware of in this new context in the Canadian market. And sometimes they just made the decision based on something that you didn't even think was important to them. So it's important. Ask them what was their motivation to decide to choose you, right? And you should always be looking, as they become your client, you should try to quantify this impact. Okay, when they become your client, their lives are going to get better somehow. The business that's your client. Either something got better in their business, something got cheaper, something got faster. They can go now after an opportunity they didn't have before, or their cost is lower in some dimension. But always look for those numbers. How can you quantify? Canadians will be very keen to listen to things like return over investment. If you can tell them that, well, this investment typically pays off in 45 days, people are going to say, sure, I'm listening, go talk, because I want to get paid back in 45 days, right? Or something like that, right? But quantify the impact that you bring to the client. That's very important. That's how you turn your beginner's luck into sustained growth. And then ask your clients, listen, when you first engaged us, are there things here that worked even beyond your expectation? What worked even surprisingly well? Again, maybe just that you did something that is just normal part of you doing business back home, but for the Canadian client, it was a differentiator. Well, then you get a clue. Now that's something you should focus on in your communications going forward. So it's extremely important to get this feedback of the successes that you had early on, right? And then what do? You're gonna gather this evidence from these first success cases that you had, that you executed well, and then you will communicate going forward now, but with focus. Okay, we can solve this type of problem, but already pointing to successes that you had in Canada. Canadians are extremely tempted to try something that somebody else like them already tried. If you come back with something completely wonderful, but nobody in Canada bought it yet, they're going, well, I'm going to sit out this one. I'm going to wait until somebody else tries and works for them, and then I'm going to decide. But if somebody else, just like me, already benefited from this, wow, that's great evidence. You know what you're doing here. You comply with everything in Canada. Well, yeah, I'm interested, right? So communicate with focus, and look for other potential clients that are very similar to these initial clients that you had, like according to whatever dimension the client told you that was important to them, right? And then you be very surgical in your effort in finding more cases like these A, B, C, D above. What is the A, B, C, D? Original pain that they had, the motivation they had to decide and choose you, the quantifiable impact that you generated for them, and what worked even surprisingly well. Like, find other cases where you believe you'll be able to deliver these 4 things. And now you have a social proof. Now you can tell them, oh, I already delivered this to this guy in your jurisdiction. That's super powerful. And then where do you go with this surgical effort? Well, there's a number of places, right? Just like you sell anywhere, but in Canada, you can go to industry associations and join them and talk at their events and you can write articles in a sectoral publication or something where you start to broadcast the success in that specific. That the power of the reputation of having already delivered a solution in this Canadian context is extremely important, right? And then what you do is say, yeah, but the guy gave me these 4 dimensions, but we're good at so many other things. Fair enough, fair enough. My recommendation is expand slowly. Be slow at expanding what you can deliver. Yeah, deliver these 4 things again to another client, but then add something else. Say, well, but there's this other dimension here we can also do. And then maybe to the other client, then you add another dimension. Now, instead of only having 4, you have 6, right? So this is how you build your sustained growth over time in Canada, and you repeat that, right? And you get out of this plateau where, you know, your approach is not giving the same sales results anymore. Maybe you had a little bit of beginner's luck, but leverage that. That's very important. Congratulations, it was great. But maybe if things are plateauing, it's because your message is not resonating. So follow these steps. There are 2 more videos here that are helpful in this topic.